Oh, hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Josh Herman. Welcome to Archetype today. Hopefully, everybody can hear me okay. Hopefully, everything sounds all right. Welcome to the stream. If you've never been to the Archetype stream before, basically what I'm doing is I'm working on a series of characters over the past couple months, and I'm going to continue this series through the rest of the year. We're making 12 characters based on Carl Jung's Archetypes, as the title of the show says. Last stream, we actually started a new character called the Sage. We wrapped up the previous one called the Caregiver, which I can show you all about. But today we're going to continue on the Sage. I'm going to walk you around quickly what I did. I don't have any recap videos. Sometimes I do recap videos, and I'll tell you why I don't have a recap video in just a second. But I don't have any recap videos today because we're going to be sculpting the character more or less from the ground up today. So let me just jump into my share screen and I'll show you a little bit of where we are and what we're going to be doing today. Let's put this here. Let me minimize myself. All right, so as you can see up here, these are some sketches. These are bad sketches. These are not usually intended to be seen by anybody. So you're getting the behind the curtain, how the sausage is made experience. But we're working on the Sage. We're going to be making this character, or rendering the character in Unreal 5. I want to focus on an environment in this. I'm going to have a 24-hour time cycle. That's the main image, I guess, that I want to get out of this. These are some bad sketches which may be hard to see now, but there'll basically be a person, which will be the character here. They'll be in a large area where there's some big columns with the sun kind of shining through, with all this research and stuff around them. So that's one of the things that we'll be doing. And again, my goals for this is I want to do a little bit of time-lapse, or I want to do that time-lapse 100% in Unreal 5, and I want to play around with control rig. So that's all the things I want to do. Last episode, I guess, I opened stuff in Maya. I set up my Maya scene. I set up all of my scenes effectively, and so I even got a quick little bit of lighting set up in our Unreal scene. So this is the Unreal scene. This is where you'll probably get to see a little bit closer. Let's see if I can do it. This area here, right? You can kind of see the sun will be shining through some big columns, and there'll be a relatively small humanoid in here. That's what we're starting to set up. This is really simple, all this is, and this is really just to explore the space and potentially some lighting, but all this really is, I'm going to turn my speed up on my camera, is a couple cubes, a couple cylinders, and a couple planes, really, with materials thrown on them. This is all in Unreal 5. This is all using Lumen. And this is all using Megascans, Quixel Megascans assets right now. So there's nothing fancy about this. There's nothing special about this, but it shows you how powerful the Unreal Engine is. So today, oh my God, it's so fast now. We zoomed right through the wall. This is where our character will be, and they'll be, you know, we'll populate all this with stuff all around them. So there's a lot of work to do here. But now I'm going to work on the character. And the reason I don't have a recap video is because I was going to work on the character, and I had jumped into Zbrush, and I was going to start working on it, and the first thing that I thought when I looked at it was, this character looks horrible. This looks terrible. So I decided that I would, rather than having a recap video for everybody where I would basically resculpt the entire character, repose the entire character, and you wouldn't get to see any of that real process. I felt like that would be a little bit of a lie to everybody to say I'm going to show you how I'm going to make this character and then not show you any of that section. So I'm going to do the bulk of that on stream today, meaning all of it, or as much as I can on stream today. Got a couple quick questions or comments. Thank you very much, Ash. I appreciate that. Unreal 5 is amazing. I really, really love Unreal 5. I'm a huge fan of it. And I'm probably going to have all the rest of my scenes for the rest of the year, which will be 10 more, including this one, will all be done in Unreal. So if you like Unreal, stay tuned. Am I going to retop or just Z-remesh when I bring from ZBrush to here? I'll probably either decimate, depending on what it is, Lee, or I will do Z-remesh, yeah, depending on what the object is. Good question, though. Nanite is pretty legit. I'm gonna, I can go ahead and open this up real fast for those who hadn't seen it. It might take a second to open, but I do want to give people who didn't get to see my Unreal 5 scene for the Caregiver, which is the previous character. I want to give them a chance to see that real quick. So I'm going to open that up. It's probably going to take a second. Yeah, that should be fine. If you decimate, how will materials work, Lee? You can wait and see, obviously, but when you decimate in ZBrush, you can keep your UVs, so you don't have to worry about that. Is Alex joining soon? Alex is not joining this one today. All right, here we go. So I'm going to close this. I'm not going to close. It's just going to be over here. This is my thing over here. There's our Zbrush, which are horrible character, which we'll fix in a minute. Hide that for as long as possible. And this is my Unreal scene for my caregiver sequence. We'll open that level up and get going. As you'll see, it's all going to be kind of messed up because all of the lights turn on at the same time and all of the poses turn on at the same time because I didn't create different things. So we'll create the pose A and we'll do the side light pose. So now we're in Unreal. This is Unreal 5. I'm going to move this outliner out of the way so you can get a little bit of a better view. I'm hoping that the character that I'm working on now, the Sage, can get to a certain or a type of level of this. This is all in Unreal. Like I was saying, this is all lit by one light, which is lumen. I'm going through some trees right now. That's why it's choking. You can see some of the poses were not set up for multiple angles. I'll turn on another pose. This is probably my favorite pose, that it ended up being my favorite pose. And I think I used my beauty lighting for that, so I'm going to switch it around. This is all Unreal 5 right here. So my goal for this new character is to have a similar type of scene where there's going to be a character kind of on top of a mountain, a different type of a mountain, but more architectural, and we'll be building it a little bit more. So really awesome stuff. And this is all nanite objects. This is all Quixel Megascans, even this one here that's kind of oddly standing out here, just to show you. I can grab this, and I can move this wherever I want. Get it close to the camera so you can see the scale of the object first off, so how far away it is. I'm also going to zoom in real close so you can see that this is not a low poly object. You can see how many little polygons there are in this thing. I would guess that in this scene there's probably 60 million polygons, and I'm just grabbing these in the background, scaling them, sizing them, moving them to create depth effects. So yeah, this is one of the ones that I quite liked, but you can get some really cool shots with this, and I'm super excited with Unreal. All the stuff you can do. I'm going to hide this. I liked the overhead lighting for this one, for example. So I'm happy with this one. Archetype is saying that they're still in love with this project. Thank you very much. I'm still kind of in love with this project, which is why I opened it up again. So this is one that I had never really done Unreal 5. I had never explored this workflow, and I'm looking forward to doing more of it. So that's what our plan is to get the new character into this scene. It's going to take several weeks, meaning probably 3 to 4 more weeks at least, including today. And it will be a little bit different with a character not as massive as this one. But it is still quite fun to do this. So, and all these trees are beautiful. These are all the Quixel trees that they released. You can see they have a little bit too much wind on them, but they're working. I'm still, every time I open it up, I don't know how that's happening. All right, here's the bad news. This character looks terrible. This character looks really bad. I did this last stream, and I was trying to block out everything and get everything up to the same point of where we could just work on everything at the same level. And then I came back over the weekend, and I was like, all right, let's level up this character. And I looked at it, and I was like, oh, dear God, this looks like shit. So we're going to work on this character the whole stream, and we're going to make some pretty heavy adjustments to the stream. This is what it kind of looked like when I opened it, and I was like, you know, the idea of a sage or a researcher or somebody who's going to be researching and doing this stuff for a really long time is cool, and I like this, but I don't like this approach of what I started, so I'm going to change it entirely, basically. Do I have any concept art for this? No, I do not have any concept art for this. Part of this series is making the concept art. So just like the last one and the one before that, in case you don't know what those are, or the previous one, I obviously just showed you that one, but I'll toss over my art station real quick. Again, this is the images that we just looked at. There's some paint over on this, some polishing up on this. You can see all the different lighting and setups that we just walked through in Unreal. But you can also go to this one. This is the previous character that I did. So this is the kind of the series. So we're basically making 3D concept art, 3D character designs. in all of this. This one was actually rendered in Marmoset Toolbag 4, which was pretty great. The ray tracing is pretty awesome. The only lighting in these scenes are the lights from the eyeballs that kind of illuminate the character, and that's what's casting all of this reflection. Thank you, Sammy, for the like. And Sammy, thank you. But yeah, these are the characters that we're making, and so effectively at the end of the year, my goal is to have 12 of these. So I've got 2 down, and we're working on number 3. But right now we have a really awful start on this character, so let's just jump into it. What this character is going to be doing is they're going to be sitting at a chair, right? We saw that here. They're going to be sitting at a chair. Oh god, the camera's so fast. Dial that way back. The character's going to be sitting at this chair. They're going to be working. I'm probably going to change the wall because it's a really awkward way to shoot anything forward, meaning like I can't really get very far and it's going to look weird. So I'm going to change what's in front of them. But they're going to be sitting. They're going to be working. They're going to have a lot of stuff around them. Somebody last stream said, is it kind of like Lo-Fi Girl? And I realized that I have watched actually many hours of Lo-Fi Girl but didn't know it. So yes, somewhat similar to Lo-Fi Girl with like that's not 30 hours in a day, a 24-hour time lapse behind them. That will happen. There's a directional light here. All of the lighting in this scene is done by Lumen, meaning there's just one light. So if I turn this, you'll see you can get the shadows to move. And so my goal is to basically have the character, this is not going to be the angle, but have the character sitting where we can do a full day cycle and they're never going to be moving. And eventually it'll come back up the other way, right? And we'll have like this kind of loop where the sun goes down and the sun comes up and they do the same thing over and over. So that will be this character. But this is really boring and really bad, and it just needs to be better. So we're going to work on the character all day today. What am I using for the materials in the floor? Those are Quixel Megascan materials. I'll show you that real quick because it's pretty topical, but all you need to do to get those is Unreal 5. Before, if you're working in Unreal 4, you got to go to the Quixel Bridge, and that's going to be outside of the program. If you're in Unreal 5, you go to Content, Quixel Bridge, and it's integrated into Unreal 5. And then you can come from here. These are my local things. I moved my library, so it's not functioning right now. But you can download any of these metahumans or any of these assets and just add them to your scene, which is pretty awesome. All right, let's get out of Unreal, and let's work in Zbrush on this terrible, hideous character. First off, I don't want this robe anymore, or the hood of the robe. I'm not a big fan of that, so I'm going to just delete that. I don't mind the idea of a robe, but I just really hate the pose and the style of this character. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to pose the character and work on the character in somewhat of a pose. The only thing I did off stream, just spoiler alert, is I made a really shitty table and I made a really bad chair. These are not expected to be the best assets that you've ever seen, right? They're basically just going to be things that have already been there before, but this is just kind of proxy meshes of what I'm going to use to pose as the character's sitting. As a character sits, obviously, your weight may be on one side. For what I'm going to do today, it's mostly going to be a static sitting pose, so it's not going to be the most dynamic. Eventually, I will. I'm so small, but I'm talking so much. Eventually, I will pose the character so that they are leaning to one side and probably doing something where they are. Maybe they have like a tome or something in their hand, and they're going to be writing on the tome, and then they're going to be looking and writing and researching, basically like they're transcribing things from ancient texts or something like that. But for now, we're going to get them posed and sitting in a chair. All right, let's do this. Let's sculpt. The head I don't mind. Totally. The hands I don't mind, but those are also scans. This is awful, so we're going to remove that. We're going to have the naked body underneath this. And I'm probably just going to start adjusting this. I don't think that the body is probably going to look anything like this. So I'm going to do a quick thing. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my lowest subdivision levels on all of these. And go all low. I'm going to hide these eyeballs because they're going to get horribly warped. And we're going to go to Z plugin, transpose master. There we go. Now, a quick tip, a lot of people use Transpose Master for posing at the end. You can actually do the opposite of that, which is you can use it at the beginning to block out your sculpt. So even though this sculpt is 3 separate subtools plus the chair and plus the table, all you need to do is subtool master it, T-pose master it, and then you can sculpt on it and then bring it back. So it's pretty easy. So I'm going to hide these and quickly mask them. And then I'm going to start building or blocking out a little bit more of this character. How did I get the scans? I purchased them. I purchased them from 3D Scan Store. I got some kind of owl bird-like features in the face, which is actually something I quite liked, but I'm going to keep working with that. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Meaning a lot. All right, let's just kind of go here. Let's pose these. Let's grab these arms. I kind of feel like I should get them sitting, but I also need to get the proportions right. So I'm like, should I start with the sit or start with the standing? Let's start with the standing. I want the body and just everything to be different. I want this to feel bigger. So I'm not going to care about any of the topology for anybody that's going to ask in this process. Honestly, I'm just not going to care, and I don't even think I could care about these hands right now. I think they're going to come back later. So let's like make this bigger. I want this to kind of feel larger. I kind of like that bit of the pose right there already. I want it to just have a lot more personality rather than just a person in a robe with a hood on. Right? There's an interesting, mystery to that, but at the end of the day, that's just really lazy storytelling on my part, I guess, where I'm just basically saying I don't want to make a character where you can see any of their details. And that is lazy. So I'm going to try to not be so lazy. I think the bigger head. Birds have big heads, which is kind of where I'm starting with this, or at least most birds have big heads. So I'm just going to basically change this, warp this, move it around a lot. I kind of liked that cone head for when it was going to be behind something. Now I'm not so sure. So I might just adjust the overall features of the head. Another thing that I decided for myself while I was working on this project was that initially this was not going to be a deity. So if you don't know any of the lore mythology on this project that I'm making, I was going to make 8 deities, a pantheon, and then the rest would be like beings that would be part of the pantheon. And I changed my mind on that over this last week, to where I am going to make every character part of the pantheon. And so that meant that this character needed to be just different, needed to be more than what they are. That's a cool idea, Rob. Yeah, from Spirited Away, lots of arms doing all sorts of things. I feel like this one is probably more like contemplative. There's a couple things that I'm thinking of that this reminds me of. One is, and this isn't necessarily where the owl influence came from, that's more serendipitous, but in Avatar The Last Airbender, the series, not the live-action show, there's an episode where they go to the desert, and they go to an underground library. And there's a really big owl, basically, there, who is the guardian of this space and this place. Get these chairs out of here. I don't care about these hands. Like, in general, this character is just oddly proportioned right now. And I could move forward with it and it would probably be fine, but it will bother me for the rest of the duration of working on the character, so I'm going to stop that. Sometimes when you work with scans also, it can take a little bit of time to like break away from them. Meaning, you know, if you're working from a scan or a base mesh of any type, sometimes what you'll spend a lot of your time doing is moving away from the scan. So I don't want it to look like this person anymore. I don't want it to have these details anymore. And that can get you kind of stuck. And I felt like I was kind of getting in that area. So I just want to break that. And that's all not always easy. I think that's something that's interesting, is a lot of people think that sculpting with a base mesh is easier, and in some ways it is easier, but at the same point you're working with something and have to change it into something else while trying to get it to not resemble that. I want these arms to be different. Kind of wondering what it will be like if I stretch these fingers out. Not too far, but just to make them match the character a little bit more. Now the character's going to have their, I'm talking out loud, the character's going to have their arms down, so I want to sculpt a pose where the hands are down, probably rather than up. Sometimes what I'll do when I'm working is I'll like get into the pose of the character, meaning like if they're going to have, wrong rotation, you know, I might put their hands out like this when I'm sculpting them just because it feels more natural, but that's not always what works, right? When the actual pose is probably going to be, you know, they're sitting at a desk and then their hands are going to be pronated. I think that's what it is. Supinated is where you're holding soup, which means you would have to have your hands like this. So pronated would be this way. I think that's the way I learned it. We still have some cloth and some covering on the character, so I'm not worried about this intersection between the two. And I still want some more size here, so I'm actually just going to pull it, for lack of a better term. And I think they should be bigger than average humans. If this is a deity, right? I think this should be bigger. Something I was exploring was the idea of, let's see if I can do it. This used to be a winged character using the owl bird influence. This isn't maybe something I would want to be in this mesh, but for sake of time, and just blocking it out. D&D hag vibes, you're here for it. There will probably it will probably drift away from hag vibes, but yeah, that's I feel it. I feel what you're feeling right now. I kind of want to see what it could be like if this was like poking out through clothes. I don't necessarily. I have ideas for another character later that would have wings, and so it's definitely something I want to explore. But I don't want to necessarily go all full on like, you know, angel right now. Dario is asking, hey, you're new in Zbrush. You start some sculpting and some web courses and stuff, but you want to learn about anatomy. And you just want to learn more about sculpting in Zbrush. Can I give you some advice or some videos to watch? I can tell you that we have a lot of videos on our channel that are mostly me sculpting in Art Jam. So if you go back and watch our Art Jam playlist and or you watch the Archetype playlist, there's a lot of videos there. But those aren't really specifically talking about anatomy. I think books are the best way to learn anatomy. Specifically, I'll show you my favorite book. And it's not going to be a sculpting book, and that may be depressing to you or sad to you, but that's the truth. This book right here, which is Figure Drawing, Design, and Invention by Michael Hampton, is the best about learning anatomy and about learning the figure. If you can learn to draw, or you can learn how to do figure drawing, even if it's not very good, but you can understand the basics of it, it will help you a lot in sculpting. So I recommend this book. All right, let's keep going. I only have about an hour and a half on the stream, and I want to try to get as much done as possible so that when I leave the stream, I can, you know, be at a good starting point. Again, this body mesh was planned, the one that's not masked, so the dark one now, the light one now. I was not really planned to be seen, and I don't think it will be. I think you'll mostly see the head, and I think you'll mostly see this. I'm not entirely sure of what I'm going to do with the wings yet, but I'm running out of geometry, and I think I need to go back to the other one. So I'm going to go Z, plugin, T-pose. Uh-oh. I may have a problem here. Yeah, I do, huh? So what happened here is that the scan that I was using, I had parts of it hidden when I was doing all of that sculpting. What can I do? I can come in here. It still saves the file over here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to clone this. I'm going to then go in here. Since I don't really need the high res of that body piece anyways, I'm getting lucky and I can just append the T-pose section of it. I'm going to come in here, hide this, that can go away. This is the one that I really want, but it's obviously many pieces. I'm going to go like this and Control W. I'll show you. I'll do it a little slower so it's not like I'm on crack. Masking everything that I don't want, hitting Control W, inverting that mask, hitting Control W. So now I have two very clear poly groups, or I should, this one and this one. Then I'm going to go and do groups split. I don't need any of this because I already have all that. I'm going to delete that. And now I have this mesh. This mesh was one that I wasn't really liking anyways, and it didn't come along, so I can delete that. The only thing that this would benefit me from keeping is the high-res details, wrinkles, stuff like that, but I don't need that, so I'm going to delete it. And now we have this again. All right, now I have I don't have any subdivision levels on this, so I'm going to have to spend some time on this. And as I'm doing this, I'm realizing that I probably should just make a set of wings, or whatever that object is going to be. So I'm just going to append a sphere. I'm going to make one in the middle for now, just kind of getting the right size. Turning symmetry off. I'm going to come in here to my brush palette. There's a really powerful smoothing brush under your smooth options called Smooth Stronger. This is really great for sculpting things like this that have a little bit of a polygon count but not crazy. So we just kind of made this bean. Z plugin. I'm going to do subtool master. I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to merge it into one subtool. And now we have that. With this, that means I can probably just come in here and erase it. And now you can start to see how we're getting to a little bit more of an interesting character. Again, we're going to do clothing over the whole character, but it will give us a nice start. These robes, I don't think I need these robes at all anymore. We'll hide those, put them down at the bottom. These eyeballs, I do have some eyeballs in here, but you're going to see they're Not going to be in the right spot for right now, and that's not important, so we'll do that later as well. But we're going to continue working. I think now is when I should probably start posing, now that I have a little bit better of an idea of what the character is. And I'm also going to come in here, save my file as a new file. If anybody has questions while I'm working, please feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer. And let's sit. Not super concerned about all of the elements here. You can always get them back or resculpt areas that pinch or collapse like that pretty easily. And I do think that some of this is going to be covered. Let's move it down. I'm going to use this line at the bottom for where the chair should be. So we'll set them, scoot that chair in for them. Ah, good job. What a gentleman. So as you can see, I'm not really looking at this as if it's like one character right now, because the pose of this is going to be so important that I really just kind of need to get this thing in the right spot before I can really even consider what it's going to be. The character is mostly going to be looking down, so I think I'm actually going to sculpt the character looking down. Maybe not from there, on the neck though. Probably just turned like this. And then this, these can go away for a second. Let's just kind of put this here. Not so far out. I'm going to put them just kind of in front of them. Is there any plans for a group shot once all 12 are done? There is actually, sort of. As I get more of them done, I do want to start populating them in the backgrounds or in other sequences, or I don't think, just due to the time it takes to make them, to make one of these in, you know, a month. I have ideas for how I could combine several of them, or show some of the history of them, or do some keyframes of them, or just get a little bit further than I normally do, if that makes sense. You know, do some group shots, do some collaborative shots, all that stuff. That's going to take a little bit of time, so that will probably be a 2023 goal, to have a couple of those. But outside of the stream, I've been exploring this IP, I guess, for lack of a better term, this world, where the people would be, what the regions would look like, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's something I'm kind of looking at the moment. So there will be some things I do later that are not going to be just like a single character in a scene. Even this, you can start to see that they're sitting at a pose. You can start to get a little bit, it's not the most beautiful pose, and the character's obviously got a lot of ways to go, but you can kind of get a sense of what I'm getting at, which is like, it's so much easier to get an understanding of what the character is and who they are when you put them in the context that they're going to be in. So I'll just quickly load up the one we started with. So this is what I was looking at. Even if I said, you know, this character is going to be in a pose or whatever, and they're going to be sitting in a chair, it doesn't really mean anything. And now, I would have to do so much work to pose them. And now on the right, it's just a million times easier to pose it and then work from there. Right? So this is what we're going to do. Also now I have these kind of wing things. This is what I was exploring, or at least a block out for the wings, where they could be, what they could be doing, what the shape they would be providing is. Certain elements that I'm going to have to be fighting, like is it a wing, is it under a wing, is it a cloak, is it going to be a problem with this chair, should the chair have a back, all these little fun questions. Are they sitting at a stool? Now we can start to get a sense of, like, if this character is now sitting in this environment, it's different, right? Rather than saying, oh, you know, this character is going to go in this environment. So I find this part really important, hugely important part of the process. So let's push this out. If it were to be there, let's even kind of push this out. Let's get some more bulk in the character. And then after we kind of do this, this is more or less like just creating another version of a base mesh, meaning this is a version of a base mesh where we could take it and then sculpt on it. Now I can take this and sculpt on it. That's the plan, to figure that out. How do the arms work with the body? What exactly is going to be shown here? What's the costume going to be? These are all questions that I can now ask without having like almost a fear of having to basically redo the entire character from scratch. I'm having thoughts and ideas right now about what could be an interesting thing. I did say that this character should be bigger than a normal character, being a human. There are humans. Oh, I really royally messed up this thing at some point. It was way too long ago. That's okay. So I might bring in another object for scale. That might mean that like some of the props and stuff might be really tiny. That might be really awkward. And just pretending like if this was a real world table and this was a big character, you could see how that would look awkward. We'll keep it as is. Oh, this song. I hate this song. This playlist is like good and then all of a sudden it goes to not good. Humans bringing books. Oh, I like that idea. That's an interesting idea. Humans bringing books and paper for scale. That's a great idea, Rob. Apparently I really stretched this, which I didn't mean to do. When I bent it, huh? Alright. This one I do need to be conscious of, because there is a nice mesh underneath. So I'm just going to smooth the middle so it feels a little better. Just tighten that up. we should like pull this. Sorry, I'm getting some notifications and I shouldn't be. There we go. These need to be bigger. I was just want to like do just a quick exploration of them. They're so big. This is what I'm thinking of right now is if I make them this large, any shot of the character from basically here to here isn't really going to see their head. You won't see who the character is, which means characters from here to here, you will see who they are, which is nice, and from here to here you will, and you'll get some interesting shots probably. So maybe just bringing them down. I mean, if I wanted to go crazy, which I don't really want to, but let's see if I can do it. I would have them like really long and almost just like resting. The mythology for this character that I thought was, this is like the god of knowledge, and the world was created not by them, but by somebody else, by a prime deity, which you have not seen because I have not made it yet. And it was this being's job to go out and to basically know everything about the place. So when they were younger, they had wings, and they would go and they would explore everywhere. They would go and they would travel to every location, and they would find what it was about that place that made it interesting. And then they would come back, and they would take that stuff and they would bring it back to their location. And then over time, as they did that over and over and over, there was no more places to explore. And so my thought was that there would be, in Unreal, I'll do a bunch of temples. So what this is, come on, there we go. This is a temple, probably one of many. And so each of these temples will have, I want to have several of them. So I'll do like some that'll be in the distance over here, and maybe some that'll be over here and over here. And each of these temples will have, there'll be duplicates of this probably, but they would, in the mythology of this, have stacks and statues and all kinds of stuff filled with this. And I'm likely just going to use a lot of Quixel Megascans for this, but they'll have all this kind of stuff that will fill the space of all the location and the place and the people that would live in there, that this being would be chronicling and being, basically the master of, as like the god of knowledge, where people would come to them sometimes and ask for questions or ask for information or all this stuff. And so now they spend, there's nothing else for them to see, they just have a lot of work to do. So they sit here all the time unless being tasked or requested, I guess. I don't know what these wings are going to be made of, but right now it appears they're made of feathers, which I did not want to make feathers for this. And so now they sit here and they work. That way it could kind of look like a cloak, I guess. That would give it the cloak vibe if it was closer and tighter to them. Let's switch to a lo-fi soundtrack. I can't handle this one anymore. All right. I think that'll give us a nice start. This is part of their actual body. That doesn't need to be colored. I think there's probably still some more elements that I probably want to figure out in this shape. But yeah. Starting to get into this mythology a bit more, and it's honestly pretty fun. I really like world building. That's my favorite thing about working in productions and pre-productions, was figuring out what those places would be, who the people would be. I'll have to get some reference on this, but I think that'll be a good start. I'm going to extend the neck. There's something about this that felt vulture-y to me. This is going to look terrible, by the way. Spoiler alert. But if I almost went like... We're going to explore something. It may look really bad. We've probably all seen birds like this. Could I make this work? I think I could make it work. I think if it was more elegant, the head would have to be smaller. Let's just do this. I know I said smaller and then I stretched it, but I have a plan. This is just a sketch. This may go completely the opposite way. What mythology is this sculpture based on? Currently none. That same posture when working at the computer. Yeah, I feel you. I constantly have to remind myself to sit back in my chair. Like, I think this could work. I think right now it's obviously hideous, but like, I don't want to be like full-on bird thing. Even though that's interesting. Debating, like, I told myself I wouldn't go full on feathers. But I seem to be going that direction. Like, the reason I said that to myself is because it's always been a really appealing look for me. So I might be biting off way more than I can chew right now if I go this direction. Let's just see. I think even just removing the eyeballs will help. Need to remind myself that this is a deity. This isn't like a normal human. This could be whatever. And this way it's definitely getting more in the Egyptian realm, which I'm totally cool with. Sounds like very stork. This is terrifying rubberneck version. And this is person with a cloak. So let's pretend that I'm in the final scene and I'm here and I'm rotating around and we're doing shots. Okay. The Looney Tunes volunteer. I don't mind this, but I don't like that head at all. This gesture is really nice with the body. Could I get the same type of gesture? I don't know. We got one person saying no, don't do it. Don't go that way. Dumb vulture. If I go this way, I think what I'll be referencing is probably more like a condor. Which is obviously like a type of a vulture, but like maybe something like this. Maybe something like it's like a pelican. Like a crane. That's the bird I'm looking for. A crane. A bird. If I do that, I'll probably go more in this realm. Pterodon. Yeah, like a pterodon kind of thing. Similar. Something like this, though. There's a lot of really beautiful gesture to birds. Birds in general kind of freak me out because they're definitely like modern day dinosaurs, but this is really beautiful. I'm going to keep this crane reference up. I am worried about going full on. But maybe, you know what? It's my world. I can put it whatever I want in it. Let's go back real quick. I'm going to take another sculpt I've done from before. If I can find it. It's going to be in here somewhere. I have two characters I'm going to pull in. First is going to be this one. I could probably take the head from this, or at least consider taking the head from this. Taking it and manipulating it. So I have this one. The other is this one. This I think I'm going to later use for something else. I've always wanted to do like a real full-on dragon. And if I start making some more, lack of a better term, lizard people in the world, this could kind of relate, because there's definitely some similar shapes in here. I do want to do a dragon at some point. I'm going to bring a dragon into Unreal. That's not this project, but it's going to happen. And it might be this one. We'll see. Dragons take forever to make, by the way. Really, really long time. In case you've never tried to make one. They take forever. I'm going to take this head and see what this can look like. This is like a space barbarian that I was working on. Let's take this head. I want those teeth too, probably. Let's just merge. Yeah, merge visible. Come back here. Very large or very small. Oh, that's not too bad. That was weird, everybody. Sorry about that. I've been having those issues recently, and I don't know why, but it seems to not like me at points. Hopefully everybody can see. Thank you. Let's just like pretend that this is gone. Tech check. Seems to be fine. So. Right. I'm going to turn off the color. Still, the head is pretty big. Let's get it maybe yay big. And then I'm just going to try at this point. I can move those teeth back if I need to. Group splitting. Check that first, though. See, that all needs to be one group. And that all needs to be one group. Otherwise, we would have just split into a million tiny pieces. And that's never fun. Subtool, group split. Now I can take this. I'm going to reconstruct some subdivision levels for it. And then, because I've got all this stuff open, I'm going to save. I'm not sure about this one. It's like I almost just wish it was kind of... just kind of like this. I definitely know I don't like that original one. I think I just got to morph this into what I want it to be. It doesn't really fit the hands though, does it? This is a tough one, everybody. This is a tough one. I'm not entirely sure. I have like ideas of what I want, but I'm kind of drifting around. And this is kind of what I hit last time when I was working on it myself, and I was like, ugh. I could make this like very small. I don't necessarily know if I love the idea of it being so monstery. But I also don't know if I like the idea of it being so bird-like. I'm just really leaning into that. I don't like the lizard version of it. I'm going to use that for something else later, I'm sure. I know I'll use that for sure. I just don't think that's the way this one's going to go. I think I'll be able to get some nice gesture out of this. I don't think I'm going to go exactly like this. I'm probably going to resculpt much of this head. We only have about an hour left, but that's a good amount of time to sculpt a lot of this head. And I think I'll be able to get in the features that I want out of it. I just think from like a distance, this shape is more interesting than this shape. And from like certain angles, it's going to help me a lot. A lot of the problem I was running into is it's going to be hidden. This character's head is going to be hidden. They can still have human hands. That's fine. I'll obviously texture them or paint them so that they're not exactly that. Delete that. Delete these teeth. Delete these teeth. but I think that'll give me a nice starting point. I feel all right about that. I do kind of need to keep moving. I want this head to kind of sit back, I think. Something in here that's masked. This space mesh is pretty royally messed up at this point. But what I'm trying to do is get this. Is there masking in there? Down. This is one of those sculpts where I feel like I'm fighting it. If anybody's ever worked in Zbrush before and you're like, this one is just hard, this one's just fighting me. I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time on just getting this to feel normal or acceptable. That's kind of an interesting shape. Let's work on this head. We're going to work on this head basically for the rest of the stream because I only have about an hour left, and it's a good amount of time. Figure out what this character exactly is. How much of it is a bird, how much of it is lizard, how much of it is human, how much of it is other. That's probably what we'll be exploring. Probably just generally trying to get it tuned up to something that feels a little better. I know I wanted it to have big eyes, so that's something I'm going to continue. And birds in general have pretty big eyes. Go pretty soft with all this. Eventually I have to get into the clothing. But we'll get there. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask. Happy to answer. In case you're wondering, sometimes characters are just like this. Sometimes they're easy, and it almost, the design like falls into your laps. Sometimes it is really difficult. This one to me feels like one that's going to be difficult. Which is kind of frustrating because the last one was the opposite. So I'm hoping this whole project isn't like that, but we'll see. I think this does make it a little bit more interesting for the size and making it a god, basically a deity. Because now I could probably come in and let's just grab a person. We'll import. Use the eyeballs. I can probably start moving those somewhat in the right area. Not yet, though. I was planning to use 3D Scan Store for this character, and that was the whole last stream was like, I'm going to make this character on 3D Scan Store, and I'm going to use these hands, and these are the hands that are going to be great, and I'll probably still use the hands, but it was all very different than what it is right now. So I'm probably going to have to almost certainly Z-remesh this thing. Look what I did to this topology. Doesn't have subdivision levels anyways, so let's try it. Let's duplicate it. Z-remesh and see if we can stop fighting the geometry. And already that is gonna be way easier to sculpt on than this is. Break that real quick. That way I can maybe get a nice little curve in here from this. I need to do some bird reference as far as the anatomy, like where the peaks in the neck should be, why they're there. But I think that'll be a fun little bit of reference. Gary says you started with ZBrush just over 2 years ago, and you have to use the gizmo. The transpose tool just freaked you out too much. I understand that. A lot of people that I know that got into ZBrush after the gizmo was introduced have never used the transpose line. I, however, came from 3D, like Maya, Max, and stuff, and to me, the transpose line is, I love it. I absolutely love it. There's just something about it that I just really like. I actually feel less comfortable using. I actually feel less comfortable using the gizmo in ZBrush. It's kind of got an evil look to it. That's not the intention, so I'm gonna try to see what we can do about that. Kind of like the idea where there's these birds near my house. They have these white beaks, and the rest of them is black, which kind of looks like this. Try that for a little bit. Got a question from Twitch. You're in your 10th class and do some basic 3Ds and cinematics and motion graphics in Blender and Unreal. What should your, it sounds like what should your next steps be? You'd like to have a VFX career when you're from India. Good question. I guess the question I would ask you is, do you know what you want to do specifically? The discipline that you want to do? It sounds like you're aware enough of some of the different types of positions. If you do, I would just start. I mean, you're young. You're in your 10th class, which I think he means like for America would be 10th grade. Keep practicing. Keep working. If you know what you want, keep working in that direction. You want to do environment design rather than doing modeling and animating. Environment design is typically done in the art departments, unless you mean layout. But that's more 3D modeling heavy. I like kind of getting a little bit of a regalness to this character. I don't mind using some very obvious inspiration if I can twist it a little bit. What I don't want to have happen, and this has happened in my designs before, and it doesn't mean you always fail, it just means sometimes you run out of time, is I don't want to just be like, oh, you just made a bird. So I want to try to get something in this that can be a little different. To answer your question, I would just keep practicing, to be honest. There's not a lot of other ways to get better at what you're doing than to just keep doing it. So keep practicing. Shape is kind of boring, so I'm trying to figure out the head shape. You don't know which steps to take to accomplish that step. What types of projects to help you get the best learning curve? That's a good question. It's hard to know without looking at your portfolio, without knowing anything. If you're wanting to do environments and you already know some stuff, the easiest thing to do is make things from real life. If you want to work in big budget VFX, most of the time you'll be making things from real life or things from concept art. So I would practice making things from real life, and then I would pick concept art and I would make that specifically as one-to-one as you possibly can. So if you're making a room, you want to make a room, use your room, use any room in your home, and make it as close as you can one-to-one. Down to the texture, down to the fiber in the rug. If you can get that good, you can replicate those types of spaces that will greatly benefit you. Alternatively, you can find some concept art online if you want to work in sci-fi or fantasy or something different, if that's what your ideal portfolio is. Model what else, make what else somebody else has. If you want to do the design of the environment, then you need to just start designing environments. You can find a character, you can use an existing character, and you can design environments for them. Meaning you could say, I'm going to make a cantina from Star Wars. I'm going to make there's a million, something from Star Trek. I'm going to do something from the Wheel of Time. I'm going to do something from The Witcher. And creating spaces that don't exist in the books, that don't exist in those movies, that don't exist in those properties, and make stuff from those. Okay, let's work on this body for a little bit. Right now I just got a bird. Though I do kind of like the silhouettes that we're getting is nice now. And I do kind of like this falling on the floor vibe. even though I probably didn't want to make this a big part of the thing, but I think it will be cool. I think it could be cool if these were like huge. Let's just make them really big. I think it'll add a little bit more story. This in itself is going to be a huge endeavor, though, which is my concern. So my concern is that I'm biting off too much more than I can chew in the time frame. Get these arms to fit a little bit. Get this, tuck this where the arm's coming from back in here. It's like they're typing on a keyboard. You can kind of see where we're going with this, and obviously it's diverged quite a ways from where it was. I didn't record any of this. I should have. I'll record the last 40 minutes of this. Well, it sounds like you're on the right track, and I would just continue doing what you're doing, to be honest. Just keep working. They say it takes 10,000 hours to be a master at something. So I guess, have you put in your 10,000 hours yet? And I can tell you, even 10,000 hours isn't enough of time. For all Gnomon students, it only takes a Gnomon student 10,000 hours to go through school, and that's enough to be a junior level position. So 10,000 hours is not enough to be a master. A lot about learning is failing over and over and over and over. So don't be afraid of that, and just keep practicing and keep failing. I'm just going to pose these more inward and see what that looks like. Not from there, though. Now they definitely look like they're... We'll just like do a quick pose. So they'd be like looking down at something. And then maybe they'd be like, or maybe they just turn their head. Did a bird just turn its head? Probably. It'd be like, oh wow, there's a lot more going on there than I thought. Here I thought this was going to be one of my more simple characters. I was wrong. Sculpt out some of this real quick just because we need it. And I think we got to get into some costume too. And again, just to remind everybody, this is where we are now. We're about an hour 20 into the stream. We've got about 30 to 40 more minutes left. This is where we started. So we've gone from, on the left, just a more simple, I guess you could say monk-like character, and this was when I thought that the character would probably just be something that would be a relatively normal humanoid with like a different alien-esque face. Deciding to go away from that, deciding that I wanted something that was a bit more of a deity, right? Something bigger. And so that's why we're kind of here now. So we're working on this character. I'm actually happy with how this is starting to look. Not that one, this one. I think we'll be able to get some interesting story elements out of this. I do think it needs costume. I think like I need to rework several sections of the character. Part of my question for myself is like, you know, how much am I going to see of this character? Like I should change the feet entirely, right? It's going to be something different. Is there going to be anything like obstructing the feet? I'm not sure. But let's get this into Unreal real quick. It's going to be the wrong scale. I'm almost positive of it. But that might actually be a good starting point for us to continue. Nothing here really has subdivision levels. Meaning I could just export this. These two. That's the only thing. But that's fine. So let's export. Let's save. We're going to go into our Z plugin. We're going to go to our FBX export. We'll make sure I got everything selected. This will be for a game. This will be going in Unreal, but it's not specifically for a game. No, this is just IP exploration, blue sky, all that stuff. Visible, smooth normals. It's fine. No maps. Great. Export. We'll call this the Sage Unreal test. Can't type today. Fortunately, you can't see that. Okay. Let's get open our Unreal scene here. This is where we're going to put them. And now I kind of want to play around with the composition of the scene now that I have an idea of what that character could look like. Because obviously, you know, this humanoid character, whose center is here, is a decent representation, was a decent representation of this character. I think we can probably agree on that, but not of the new one. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to content browser. We'll just make a new folder. We'll call it character. We'll call it Sage. I'm going to import in here from my Zbrush folder, just a test. I don't need it to be nanite. It doesn't need to. It's only it's not that big. And I'm just going to import it all. It might make it several meshes, which is fine. It's not ideal. And I might make this a new folder in there. Yeah, it did. Make a new folder and we'll say size test. Take all that, toss it in there, move here. Is it not worth taking this into Substance Painter? It will definitely be worth using Substance Painter or something different. Right now I'm just doing a test of the size. For example, so I'm just bringing it in. It is very, very small. So let's make it bigger. Ah, ah, ah. It is broken. It is very, very broken. Delete that. And we're just going to straight up delete all this. It's going to say, do you want to delete that? You shouldn't do that. I'm going to say, I don't care. Here. Let's just go over here and let's do this move. Definitely very broken. Transpose master. You know, I actually don't need this though. Let's hide those. We'll keep that chair. We'll keep that crappy chair. I'm going to use that table that's in that other scene for size. There's got to be something going on with the mesh though, right? If it's really doing that. We'll try again. This was just going to do all. Let's try one more time. All right. I should have scaled it at 100, I think. I want to see if it's even busted or not. Yeah, this thing needs to be up by 100 for sure. Still broken. Something is messed up with this mesh. Okay. Well, let's go in here. Let's import the test. It seems fine here. Okay. See, this is where I always get confused. Like sometimes things seem fine, sometimes there's some weird issue. Why? Why is it doing this to us? I'm going to open up Maya. I'm going to then import it into Maya. Then I'm going to export it out of Maya. That way, it's coming from a different package than Zbrush. Unrecognized file type. Okay. We're kicking ass today. Sorry, my Maya's being very slow. Maybe try a single poly group. That's not a bad idea. Alright, so now it's a single poly group. I'll even go crazy and just say like decimate it. Let's change the topology entirely. Reorder it. Let's do one last export from here. The ZPR. It's not a ZPR. That was an FBX. It is recognizing as a 3D object, which is annoying. So it's not wanting to import that. Let's try it in here though. File, import. We're in here, here. Oh. Import scene frame rate. is 30 to 24. I don't care about that. Oh, there you are. Oh, there you are, Peter. It must be something with the frame rate or something. Let's just scale this up big. Like, I feel like in the real scale, I want it to be huge. Like, I want it to be like this big. So let's bring it down back to where it was 100. File, export. At this point, we could probably just make it an OBJ. Let's see if it has issues with that. Drag and drop it in here. Well, it's on a different orientation, but it's correct. So that's a good start. Success, everybody. It is possible it's from the remnants. Yeah, that's a good call. Alright, let's turn snap on. Click, 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 click. I don't like the character being a white material, but that's okay. Feels like the Phantom of the Opera is like playing a weird thing here, huh? Fella, you're out of here. Got all these books though. Actually, you can stay here. You're just gonna have to move. Modeling. What do you? That's the center pivot. There's like a button for that. Yeah, whatever. We'll do it later. Your assistant. So you sit at your desk. Hello everyone, first time watching the stream, will you do some modeling? Hi, welcome to the stream. So we had all these little books, and somebody had mentioned, I think it was Rob, the idea of like a character bringing books, like humans bringing them books. I mean, not everybody has to have their desk right next to the wall, you know. Should you render videos in Unreal? There's no reason not to. I have heard that there are some bugs in Unreal 5 regarding movie render queue and rendering and foliage and some stuff like that. But there's no reason you couldn't. Go back into our Maya scene. And let's export these. We'll call these temple proxy. Then I can come into Unreal. I won't be rendering, well, I guess in this one I will be rendering a video, but my goal is not really to render long videos. I'm more focused on illustration and stills. I think this is going to need to be scaled up still, though. Feet off the ground and put it at the ceiling. Yeah, there's no problem with the rendering in Unreal, though. There is some, like I said, maybe some issues with movie render queue where things will flicker in Unreal 5, but that's because it's still in beta. All right, I'm gonna make this faster. We could do some quick block out on this scene, like the actual environment. What are the specs of my computer? I'm using a 2080. Maybe I should have made these a nanite object just because. I don't know why I need to, but. Alright, let's get some content. Oh, I need to adjust where my library is, though. That's right, we'll use what we have already. This is not going to be the final materials, but just so we can see them, and they're also not bright white. This button shifts Alt. There we go. You dig the scale of the mats? That's good. Yeah, I like that material. The goal of these being in here, by the way, is to start thinking about what the other things in the scene could be. You know, that there could be other things out there. Our other scene open? No, we do not. We can, though. I think this character needs to be a little bigger still. It's fine. With the human scale, it'll be fine. Opening up another scene, not this one, this one. Why am I doing this, you're asking? Well, I think you can do this. First, I'm going to move this over. I'm pretty confident that I can click this. This isn't maybe the piece that I want. This is a good piece. I think I can go edit, copy, and then I can go into this one and go edit, paste. Any opinions on pirated software? No comment. No, I don't have any opinions on that. So it brought something in, it just didn't bring it. Which is odd. What does it even think I'm using? Huge Icelandic cliff. So it sees it's a cliff. Doesn't know where the mesh is. And it doesn't know where the material is. That's why. Just kill it. So I was hoping I could use the stuff straight from there. I did some reorganization and I ended up removing or moving all these assets. So I think that that's where it's having trouble pulling them across. Can we do this? Just curious. Copy. That appears to have just been a folder. Didn't work either, did it? What would be a good place to find resources on Marvelous Designer? I have no clue where to start. Honestly, YouTube. There's a lot of good YouTube videos on all kinds of things, so I would recommend YouTube. There's probably, I would try to do, similar to what other advice I give for other things. Like just get into modeling. Try to make a specific piece of clothing, try to make a specific thing. I find that's always super helpful, just because then you know what you're doing and if you messed up. For Marvelous, like search how to make a t-shirt, right? How to make a skirt, stuff, something like that. All right, I'm kind of happy with the size of this character-ish. I do kind of wish they were a little bigger. Too fast. The problem that I know I'm going to run into, and this isn't something I necessarily wanted to run into, is any props and stuff are going to be so small to make the scale seem consistent. So like this, and this, and this. They're going to be so tiny that you're not really going to ever see them. And I'll need tons of them, which is fine. I can make tons of them. But it's going to be more of an endeavor to, make it feel like that's what they really should be. The other alternative is I'm just going to undo a bunch. Is I could just do this. And make the space a little bit more compressed. If I make the space more compressed, it doesn't feel as big and as grand, which is kind of what I wanted. But the ceiling is smaller. That gives the illusion that the scale is there. These are going to scale weird. Alex Gamer 1991 says, as someone who is new to ZBrush, would it be better to do blockouts in another program than transfer them over to ZBrush for details? That's, in my opinion, that is more of an older way of working, meaning you would model a base mesh in Maya, Silo, XSI, 3ds Max, right? You would model all that stuff in those programs, and then you would come back out and you would say, like, I'm going to do my details and I'm going to, finalize it in ZBrush. In my opinion, that workflow is mostly gone, unless you're working in like very specific places where you have base meshes that like every character uses or something like that, then it kind of makes sense, right? Then I can see that being like a good way to work. But if you're somebody who wants to do just general character sculpting, like I don't personally see an issue with doing everything or as much as you can in ZBrush. That's kind of how, you know, I'd say 5 to 10 years ago, realistically 10 years ago, that's how the character pipelines were, where you would sculpt everything in from a game side as compared to a film side. Film was usually model it, make a nice mesh, then add your details and your textures. Game side was the opposite because you needed to bake down to a low res object. And then once ZBrush and normal maps kind of came into play a decade or more ago, you would sculpt your character, then you would retopologize it and have really low res meshes. And then with those really low res meshes, you would bake normal maps, textures, and apply them and have it afterwards. That method, the game method, seems to be the one that has survived more because programs like ZBrush here are so powerful that you can quickly make characters and you can sculpt them really fast. And that's a ZBrush screensaver. You can sculpt them so fast, and there's so many great tools for doing quick topology like Z-Remesh, Dynamesh to do new and interesting shapes. And so my opinion for your question is to sculpt it in ZBrush and then retopologize it and then project, do whatever you need for your textures and all that fun stuff. So that's what I would personally do. Hopefully that helps. All right, everybody, we're doing pretty good today. I didn't get as much or as far as I wanted. Like I was saying, while working on this character, I feel like I've kind of been fighting the character like the whole time. And then we obviously saw like a lot of back and forth with Unreal, where it wasn't really wanting me to do anything. It was not letting me import or was having issues. So we've got some stuff set up. This is our Maya scene, our ZBrush. So we did do a lot on the character, at least proportionally, right? So we kind of went from like this point to this is where we started. So from here to here. So obviously that's a big change as far as what the character looks like and what they're doing. But now we're pretty well set up to actually explore the character. I would say that in the scope of my progress, I'm a little behind on what the character should look like, but I'm a little ahead on what the scene's going to look like, generally with a vibe of what I want on the scene and all that stuff, and kind of how I think I'm going to assemble it. So I feel okay. I think it's going to take a lot of work in the next couple weeks to get this thing done up to the level that I want, especially after having enjoyed this one so much. I think there's a lot that I'm going to want to do that's going to be specifically inside Unreal, but that should be pretty fun. So yeah. I think having a little room here will be helpful. I like this idea. It's not working like I was quite hoping, but I think that's the material I'm just going to throw on, even though it's not going to be good. Look at what happens if we just do that. Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting. But that's okay. At least it's not pure white. You can be this other color. Oh, you actually look different. That's actually interesting. I'm hoping to use Control Rig for the animations, and I really just need to spend some time art directing this whole thing as far as the set is concerned. But I'm liking. It does really feel like they're playing a piano, which is maybe okay. A lot of that's the pose right now, though. But like if I came in and like let's make a new camera. So create cameras, cinema camera actor. can see this is the camera. I usually like to scale them up so I can see them. It doesn't actually change what you see. Perspective going to that camera. This is a long lens right now. Details. 35, that's not too far. It's like make it really wide. It's like a really flat lens. Let's do like a 55. Kind of come in here, see if we can get anything interesting. No, Lee, I'm not going to texture the character entirely in Unreal. I'll be texturing most of the environment entirely in Unreal. It does feel like just the composition I have right now is going to be hard to get anything kind of interesting unless it's in front of them. So I'm just kind of playing around with the space. I'm kind of just exploring what we could be doing here. It's not really giving me like a perfect angle. And some of that is that just the, you know, everything's not really set up. But I'm kind of almost liking this idea of if there's not a wall right in front of them, that, I'm just going to delete it. We'll pretend, we'll grab wrong button. I think it was this. So this might give us an opportunity. I liked the wall idea, and I still kind of like that idea. But I think something like this could give me more options from like almost like the photography standpoint. I did want to have some candles, which is a challenge, but I could still do that. I mean, if it's a nighttime scene, like we could move this whole character, you know, like to the center. There's no reason we couldn't do that. We could rearrange all these pillars to where it's maybe a little bit more open. Move it too fast. There we go. This could be a thing we could try. So I might explore that. I'm going to undo that and bring it back to the edge because I think I generally like it more this way. Make it like a pergola. That might create some nice texture too. So I think there's some stuff I'm going to have to play around with and figure out what this architecture is really going to be, what's really going to feel like. Because there's some things in here, even with just with these temporary materials and stuff that's working, but there's a lot that's not working. So a lot of stuff to do. But I'm going to save this. This is fine. And that's actually going to be the end of our stream today, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. Thanks for hanging out with me for a while. It's been nice to do this, so thanks, everybody. We'll be doing a bunch more streams for the rest of the year. Like I said, that this series is going to continue for the rest of the year. We also have our program we do on Tuesday night on Creature Corner. It was a cool episode last night with Jared Morantz, so go check that one out. And then we also have our week ending stream on Fridays with Miguel and Tran, where they're creating a short completely in Unreal 5, so it's called Voice in the Hollow. Go check that one out. But otherwise, that's all, everybody. So I will I'm going to wrap it up, and I'll see you all soon. Have a good one. I'll see you next week.